Good evening, everyone. Ads here from Unity Trading Group. Welcome back to another week full of updates. Thank you all, first and foremost. Thank you all for joining us for Gravy Train. So we released Gravy Train last week. I think it was Friday night. We released Gravy Train Thursday night, Friday night, and the response has been incredible. The response has been absolutely incredible. Thank you all for joining us. Of course, there's going to be more how-tos, more videos in the future to really tell how to use Gravy Train more in depth. So we're going to go over, how to set alerts, how to act on those alerts, stuff like that. So be sure to stay tuned. Before I start, hit that like button, tap the subscribe button if you can, and of course, tick the little bell to stay updated on all of our future content, including the Gravy Train stuff. It's all coming through over the next couple of weeks. So BTC, where are we at with Bitcoin? So BTC USD on the 4-hour chart, this is what we're seeing. We're seeing this downward momentum on the 4-hour towards our level of demand. And we'll speak about this level of demand. We've got a red cloud on the Gravy Train indicator, but we have a green symbol on our steamroller. So a few conflicting different indicators there, but we'll speak about demand first. So we have this level of demand just to the left-hand side. We have a retest to the right-hand side as well. So we know that level exists. We knew it existed in February, early February, should I say that. So we have returned to the scene of the crime, and we have returned to the most, influential level that we've seen so far in the way of a level of demand. So a bounce off, a significant bounce at that, and then a movement towards the upside. The only thing with this level now that I'm seeing is it's of low quality. And why I'm saying that is because we don't have a significant pivot point on this level now. We have a pause in the market and a retest to the right-hand side, but it's not a significant pivot. We have a significant pivot down here, although not huge, but it is better than what we're seeing currently at 44K. So in of itself, the trend currently points a little bit bearish to me, just based off those few details about our level of demand. Now let's move on to a couple of other bits and pieces that I want to highlight with Bitcoin. So we have the RSI. I've spoken about the 50 level about the RSI really in depth over the last couple of weeks. You do need to have that on there if you're using RSI, because if we are above it, we are quite bullish. And of course, if we are below it on that time frame particular, we are a little bit bearish. So we haven't broken through that 50 level on the RSI yet. We are currently trending below it. So in that instance, it means to me that we could probably expect a little bit more downside unless we come and break this liquidity to the left-hand side where we see it further across to the left as well and head towards our short-term level of supply at 50K, 178 Fibonacci. That lines up very nicely, should I say, with the Gravy Train cloud. Like I said, in the past or in past videos, that you can use the Gravy Train cloud as either support or resistance, and using those cloud levels to maintain or even validate your current levels of TA. So I've got this level of supply here corresponding with the 178 Fibonacci, and we have the Gravy Train cloud lining up quite nicely with that level too. So three levels of validation to really give us a level of resistance or a level of supply at that 50K level. And not to mention the 50K is a psychological round number that will be used as a level of resistance if we do get back up there, in the short term. So overall, a little bit bearish on BTC. It can be the fact that we do push through this liquidity that we're seeing now, and I'm seeing something along the lines of this currently as well. So I'm not going to discount that, but if we do see this movement, I would suspect the 178 at 50K will be tested. But if we are to continue our bearish trend and break this pattern to the downside, this pattern here and we break this short-term level of demand to the downside, then I would suspect our next level that we're seeing is about that 40 to 39K mark, where we do have a better level of demand. And of course, we do have significant gravy train or GT cloud to the left-hand side to validate that area also. If I'm looking at the daily, if I'm looking at something a little bit more substantial, it really paints a little bit of a better picture, because we are still currently, or we are just getting rejected on the 50 RSI. We are still maintaining a downward spiral on the steamroller indicator, and we do have a gravy train cloud sitting around our 618, and that coincides nicely with the bottom or that level of demand that we just spoke about at $39,000 to $40,000 for BTC. So a couple of ways we can go. Of course, I'm planning for both scenarios in the way of I'm using a DCA strategy to average myself into the market. So I have taken a position, or I have bought some BTC Ethereum, around these relevant key levels. So if you are doing the same, well done to you. But I'm always looking for more opportunity down below. We do have a significant pivot point down at 30K or around 40,000. So it will be an area for me to watch out for. So couple of ways we can go. If we're looking at the steamroller indicator, we are due for a bit more of a retrace to the upside towards our 178. But if we are to continue the bearish trend, lower highs all the way down and lower lows, of course, on the 4-hour time frame, then if we are looking to break downwards, I'd be looking towards 40 or 39K. Very easy to follow. Ethereum Usd, we'll have a quick look at this. Very similar price action, very similar structure. But in this instance, we do have a significant pivot point at around that 1350 mark, where we did have a movement through our level of demand. So are we going to push up further? Are we going to come down? Well, Ethereum really having a very similar effect to BTC, where we are trending below the 50 RSI. We are giving us opportunities in the way of oversold conditions on the steamroller indicator. And of course, we are observing very similar price action in the way of gravy train, where we've got our level of demand, or supply up the top here, which I'll nip up actually. And that coincides nicely with the cloud. So if we're looking at BTC and Ethereum, I'd be looking for both scenarios to play out. And I know that's hard to digest, because, go up, go down. If you're trading on leverage, it's a little bit harder. If you're trading on spot like us at UTG, I know a lot of the guys trade against leverage, and that's fine as well. But in my instance, I trade against spot. So I can plan for both directions. So planning for both directions, meaning I'm taking a position on this instance. If we do move up to our level of demand or supply, at $1,600, I'll be looking to give myself a little bit of profit or average out of a position. If I'm expecting a bearish move down to 1200 or 1250, I'm looking to accumulate or average into the market for a overall market cycle to the upside. That is the general gist of it. I am using this strategy across all of the major USD pairs that I trade. And of course, when I say plan for both outcomes, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about. If you're using leverage, of course, you're probably trading a lower time frame, specifically maybe the 1 hour, 30-minute time frame, especially gravy train using this time frame a little bit more effectively, of course, for more up-to-date information. So if you're looking for shorter term trades, the GT indicator, which you can find down in the link below, will accommodate as well as it does on the 4-hour and the daily. So in this instance, to cut it long story short, we are looking for a rise in Ethereum to about 1600. But if we are to continue the trend exactly the same as BTC, then I'd be looking for 1250 or the next levels of demand down below, which coincide nicely as well with the clouds that we're seeing or observing on the gravy train indicator also. So a couple of levels that we could go if we are going to, like I said, maintain this bearish momentum. I'd be looking for that 1240, 1250 mark to eventuate over the next couple of days. Next one, ADA USDT. Now I spoke about ADA over on Discord, And I've been observing the 1 hour trend personally. So I've got this parallel, or excuse me, this channel moving to the upside towards ADAs. So this is on the 1 hour time frame. I'm using a gravy train. I'm using, of course, these channels to really determine where our bounces are going to be. But in the immediate term, I'm probably expecting this negative 27 or $1.34 to come to fruition if we are to see this trend line being held on a shorter time frame. But what I did mention in the Discord was on a 4 hour. So I was looking at a sell around 144 and then a rebuy around this 116. So that's come to fruition nicely. But if we are to see this trend continue, and I'm looking for more or a better entry into ADA, I'd be looking towards $1.10 or around where we did see a significant pivot point in the market, which is around that 23 Fibonacci area. And that Fibs is a little bit outdated now, so I'll get rid of that just to give us a little bit better price action, a little bit easier to see, a little bit nicer as well. So with ADA, it's really coming down to the same sort of price action where we're seeing a lot of these downward spiraling movements on the USDT or the USD pairs. ADA on the short term, I possibly could expect it to come to 135, but I'm not holding my breath on that among any sort of circumstances. If I'm to see this trend continue, I'd be looking towards that 110 area. But of course, short term, looking at 135 for ADA. XRP USD, another one that I look at quite often. So hasn't fared as well as the other pairs. We did move through the current level of demand, so I'll get rid of that. We are looking at a relevant 78.6 fib bounce currently at the 40 cent mark, but not looking strong in any way, shape or form for XRP. And I would honestly expect it to retest this 37 cent mark at about this 88.6 area. If we turn on the gravy train indicator, we've got a huge cloud to deal with, but the takeaway would be a nice cloud support at around that 37 mark as well for the XRP chart. Now, the last one I'll have a look at this evening is Forex on the DXY. Of course, not financial advice, just ideas and opinions of Team UTG. We look at the DXY quite often, and of course, we've had the reaction to this 89.79 bounce. So last week we spoke about the eventuality of 89.79 being an area that we could bounce from, and expecting that with the steamroller indicator. That came to fruition over the last few trading days last week, and of course today we are seeing a little bit of a relaxation on the DXY. But we are looking like we could retest this 91 level of, and of course, and I'll move that down to give us a little bit better indication, 91.04, where we see this short-term level of supply that we did bounce off very, very nicely. So the way we identified that was the short-term pivot point, and of course, the body of that candle. So looking like the retest fared very nicely, and of course, we could see this short-term movement come up and retest that area as well. If we turn on gravy train, does work on regulated markets. In fact, it works better on regulated markets. If you haven't used it yet, give it a go, unitytradinggroup.com. But we could expect a little bit more of a rise out of the DXY. And if we are to look at the 1 hour, a little bit more up-to-date information for the DXY, I'm looking at this level of demand to really come down, give us a nice little pullback, and of course a move into the upside to retest that 91.04. That really concludes our update for this evening, though. Thank you all again for all those who jumped on Gravy Train late last week and over the weekend. Thank you all so much. If you want Gravy Train, of course, www.unitytradinggroup.com. You can see the indicators tab up the top of the website. Gravy baby for 50% off your first month. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you all for joining me, and we'll see you on our next video. Bye for now.